Welcome back, everybody. Today we're diving into how to keep that peaceful, meditative feeling going, even when you're, not actually meditating. We've got research, we've got ancient wisdom, and we're going to use all that to help you stay calm and focused, even when, your inbox is exploding.
It's really about taking that mindfulness you've worked so hard to build and putting it to work in the real world.
Exactly. Our sources all point to two big reasons why this is important. First, it's about keeping up that meditation momentum you've worked so hard for. So you're not starting from scratch every time you sit down and meditate. You're carrying a little bit of that inner peace with you all day long.
Yeah, it's like, imagine trying to train a puppy on this long, loose leash. It's going to be all over the place.
Right.
But a short leash, it keeps the puppy close, paying attention to you. And our minds are kind of similar. If we can be mindful throughout the day, it's like we're keeping ourselves tethered to that calm center.
So we're all aiming for a well-behaved mental puppy, I guess. But it's not all about, making medication easier, is it? It's also about dealing with all that, stress of daily life.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of our sources uses this really great analogy. They talk about a post that's planted firmly on a rocky beach.
Yeah.
And the waves are crashing and crashing against this post, but the post stays stable because it's, anchored deep down in the bedrock.
Oh, I like that.
And that's what a grounded mind is like, unshakable, even when everything around you is chaotic.
So it's like mindfulness is providing that bedrock, that deep foundation of resilience.
Exactly. And here's where things get really interesting. Recent research is showing that mindfulness can actually help you be more focused and get more done.
Really? That seems kind of counterintuitive. How can something that's all about stillness help you get things done in this, crazy busy world?
Well, it's not about having an empty mind, right? It's about being present and aware. And when you're aware of your mental patterns, you can start to see those negative thoughts, those distracting thoughts before they, kind of spiral out of control.
Right.
Imagine you have a fixed reference point, like a tall pole, and you use that pole to see how fast the clouds are moving. That's kind of what mindfulness does. It gives you that reference point so you can just observe your thoughts instead of getting swept away by them.
So it's about choosing where our attention goes instead of just being at the mercy of every thought that pops up.
That's it. It's not about adding another thing to your to-do list. It's about changing how you approach everything on that list. And that leads us to this idea of daily life as walking meditation.
So bringing that meditative awareness to everything we do, like work, chores, everything.
Yeah.
Our sources kind of break it down into three main areas: inner focus, engaging in activities, and then navigating our environment.
Right. It's walking meditation, but on a much more complex level,
Right.
In the real world, we can't always control what we're doing or where we are. And that's where the real practice comes in, applying these skills to the unpredictable flow of life.
Really putting those mindfulness muscles to the test.
Exactly. And, something our sources really emphasize is rearranging your life to make mindfulness a priority. You can't just squeeze it in when you have a free minute.
So actually making space for it instead of just hoping it'll fit into your already packed schedule.
Right. And that brings us to some actual techniques for cultivating that inner focus throughout the day. Our sources talk about two approaches that are really helpful, both focused on the breath.
Breath-focused techniques. Tell me more.
So the first one is all about what are called trigger points. Those places in your body where tension tends to build up first, like your throat or your chest, your hands maybe. It's different for everyone. And the practice is basically noticing your own personal trigger points and then making an effort to keep those areas relaxed throughout the day.
So it's becoming aware of those early warning signs of stress. But how is that different from just, general body awareness?
It's about stopping stress before it really gets going.
Yeah.
When you hold tension in your body, it actually tells your brain to be more stressed. It's like a feedback loop. But when you relax those trigger points, you break the cycle and that tension can't build up.
Wow. So we're deactivating those stress alarms before they can even go off.
Exactly. And then the second technique is more about, creating a buffer between you and difficult situations. And you do that by using the breath as a shield.
A breath shield? I've never heard of that.
It's a visualization technique where you picture your breath forming this protective barrier all around you. And as people say or do things that might upset you, you imagine those words and actions just passing by, deflected by your shield. And it can really help you stay calm and not absorb all that negativity.
So I'm creating a space of calm around me, but I'm not shutting myself off from the other person or the situation. What does the research say about how effective this technique is?
Well, there's a lot of research about how focused breathing can affect your heart rate and stress hormones. Studies show that even a few minutes of focused breathing can actually make you calmer and more resilient, like physically. And while there's not as much research specifically on the breath shield, it fits with those findings. It's a practical way to use those same principles in tough situations.
It makes sense that if you can calm down your body, it would change how you interact with the world around you. But I have to admit, this is a lot to take in. 2 techniques, trigger points, breath shields. So how do these actually work together, in real life?
Well, it's good to have a variety of tools. Right?
Yeah.
The trigger point relaxation can be your kind of like everyday practice. It helps you stay grounded all day long. But then when things get really tough, that's when you bring out the breath shield for that extra layer of protection.
So it's like a mindfulness toolbox.
Yeah.
We can choose whichever tool is best for the situation.
You got it. And remember, this is a practice. It's not about being perfect. It's about doing it. And the more you use these tools, the easier it gets. Our sources go into how to use these techniques with those challenging people in your life. It's so easy to get sucked into their energy vortex and end up feeling their stress.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I've got a couple people in my life who are like, walk-in stress clouds.
That's exactly when that breath shield can really come in handy. It's not about blocking them out or anything or becoming emotionally detached. It's just about creating a little buffer zone.
So I can see their emotions and everything without getting totally overwhelmed by them.
Exactly. You can respond calmly, clearly, be supportive, but not let their storm drown you. And that can actually be good for both of you.
Yeah, it's I've definitely had that happen where I'm trying to be empathetic and I just take on their stress and then we both end up feeling drained.
Right. Keeping that little bit of separation energetically is really important. It's like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. You got to take care of yourself first.
Oh, that's such a good analogy. Yep. But it's not just about shielding ourselves from negativity, is it? Our sources also talk about, building up our own positive energy.
Absolutely. It's like that breath shield isn't just a barrier. It's also generating something. When we use these techniques, we're strengthening that inner foundation of peace and stability. And that actually radiates outward. It affects us and the people and things around us too.
Wow. So by working on our own inner peace, we're actually helping to create a more peaceful world.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's like this ripple effect.
Yeah.
Our inner state is always interacting with everything around us.
This is blowing my mind. I'm starting to really see how powerful it can be to make mindfulness a part of everyday life. It's way bigger than just those, 20 minutes on the meditation cushion.
It's a journey. It's not like you reach a destination and you're done. There are going to be times when we forget to practice, times when we get caught up in the chaos of life.
Right.
But that's okay.
So it's about, gently reminding ourselves to be aware instead of beating ourselves up when we mess up. Which we all do.
Yeah, exactly. It's about cultivating that inner observer, that wise and compassionate part of you, the part that can see your thoughts and feelings without judging them. And the more we practice, the stronger that part of us becomes. And the more resilient we become, the more we can handle whatever life throws at us.
Oh, wow. This has been so insightful. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of what it means to live mindfully.
I'm glad to hear that. And the great thing is, anyone can do this. All it takes is being willing to pay attention, to be present right here, right now.
And to breathe. Can't forget that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
The breath is our anchor, right? It's always there with us on this journey.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, what's one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I'd say mindfulness isn't about adding another thing to your to-do list. It's about changing how you do everything on that list.
So it's about bringing that awareness and presence to everything we do.
Yes, exactly. And when we do that, it opens up a whole world of possibilities, a world where we can face challenges with wisdom and compassion and live with a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment.
That's beautiful. So I'm curious, what's one small thing our listeners can do, today, to start bringing these practices into their lives?
I think a great first step is just noticing those trigger points. Take a minute right now and just feel where you tend to hold tension in your body.
Just tune into those physical sensations.
Yeah. And then as you go through your day, just see if you can relax those areas. It's a small change, but it can make a big difference.
It's like planting a little seed of mindfulness that can, grow over time. What else can they try?
Well, think about your day. Are there any little moments where you could pause and take a few deep breaths? like waiting in line or before you start working on something.
So finding little pockets of time to connect with ourselves, even in the middle of a busy day.
Exactly. And even just a few breaths can make a big difference in your mood and your energy.
Like a tiny little meditation break all throughout the day. I love that.
And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about trying and being willing to keep learning,
This idea of like cultivating our own inner peace so we can make the world more peaceful is really powerful. It's like we're not just working on ourselves, right? We're working on the whole system.
Yeah, it's this beautiful ripple effect.
Yeah.
The more we build up that inner observer, that part of us that doesn't judge, the less reactive we become to the world. We don't get caught up in all that drama and conflict.
So instead of like adding to the chaos, we're actually becoming this calming presence.
That's it. It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. But it all starts inside. We have to cultivate our own inner peace first.
That's so true. And speaking of inner peace, some of the sources we looked at talk about how these mindfulness techniques can actually have a calming effect on the environment, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, it's like you're creating this field of positive energy that can kind of neutralize negativity and create more harmony. We're all connected, and our energy is always interacting.
So it's not just like a new agey idea. There's really an energetic exchange happening all the time. Wow. Makes you think about how responsible we are for the energy we bring into the world.
Absolutely. The more aware we are of that connection, the more mindful we become about how we're affecting others. It's empowering to realize that we're not just like victims of our circumstances. We actually have a role in shaping our reality.
It all comes back to taking responsibility for what's happening inside us. If we're cultivating peace, joy, compassion within, then we're naturally going to make the world a little more peaceful, a little more joyful, a little more compassionate.
It's a chain reaction of positivity. And it starts with that first step of just paying attention, being present in this moment, choosing to step out of that autopilot mode and really engage with life, consciously and intentionally.
And breathing. Never forget to breathe.
Of course. The breath is our anchor, always there for us on this journey of mindfulness.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into, integrating mindfulness into everyday life, what's one last thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I'd say just remember, this is a practice. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up every day and being willing to learn to grow, to keep becoming more mindful.
Embracing the journey with all its ups and downs.
Exactly. And be honest with yourself about how committed you are, Start small, maybe just focus on one technique, and slowly bring these practices into your life.
It's about finding what works for you and trusting that even small steps can lead to big changes.
Absolutely. And remember, even if you stumble, you can always start again. That breath is always there, waiting to guide you back to peace and presence.
That's a very comforting thought. So to all our listeners out there, as you go about your day, remember to breathe, be present, and cultivate that inner observer. The world needs your peace, your presence, and all the amazing things you have to offer.
And remember, you have the power to create a more mindful and compassionate world, both inside yourself and all around you.
That's a beautiful way to end this conversation. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep shining your light.